Says you're unable to join, Devon, for some reason. You might have to close your app and start over. Hey, what's up, Brenham? Yeah, Nico, you gotta come. Oh, there he goes.
Oh yeah,
What's
I'm here.
up, man?
What's going on?
How's it going?
It's
Hey, I
going
gotta
good.
switch my AirPods.
Just got my voice back today.
Got your voice box back.
Got my voice box. It's important. Don't realize how important something is until it's gone.
I hear you.
Capital included. That's a nice background, man. Is that a painting?
Yeah.
Brenton, what's good, my guy?
Brenton Todd, everybody. Brenton Todd.
It's Friday. The streets are calling our names.
Yeah.
Actually, the streets aren't calling names in Houston because it's been raining. Tropical thunder, like.
What do it mean to you now?
What is what?
What do weekends mean to you now as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Weekends are like, since, one of my 5 years from corporate, weekends are like, it's like active rest, when you're running track and you're in between intervals, but you still need to walk or jog.
Yeah.
So it's a great time to unwind, but also not feel the pressure of, accomplishing tasks, which allows you to accomplish tasks.
Are you saying that basically it's not like always Friday through Sunday? Sometimes your weekend is your kind of your rest regiment, like when you put a break into action?
Yeah. Weekend is obviously is great for family time, to unwind, but it also kind of allows you to kind of fluidly move through tasks that you may have forgotten about on the weekend as you're completing a couple of honeydews. Because the week is, especially on Monday, man. Monday can feel like 2 days in one. Well, hopefully it feels like 2 days in one if you're able to get that work in.
2 days in one.
Hopefully.
I don't know. I've lost my whole thing. I was making jokes the other day that Henry Ford made the weekend so his employees would buy cars, and we just don't live in a world where weekends really matter anymore. Especially when you start to think about like, the conversation around who gets time off when holidays and federal holidays happen. And not everybody.
No, and that's what I was gonna
Entrepreneurs,
say. I mean, when the bank shuts down, that means transactions can't occur, but that doesn't mean you can't, accomplish some tasks. But that's the other thing for me. Federal holidays don't mean as much anymore.
Yeah. Well, they're just a starting block. They're a starting block for business culture. Like,
Yeah.
people are emphasized to take rest on that day. But I don't know. Entrepreneurs make their own holidays and make their own weekends, week starts, whatever it is. And, I feel like it's important to learn how to put a break on a Wednesday, clear that
100%.
Wednesday out and make the Wednesday the Saturday for a week or two.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw my calendar last week, Friday, but I definitely took an hour to go float at the sensory deprivation, So yeah, sometimes your body's going to tell you whether we listen to our body is the other problem that I've personally had over the last 5 years that I'm trying to get better at now. But your body tells you when it's time to break.
I got a real question for you. Like when you're a university athlete, was exhaustion part of your experience? Like, was there an element of exhaustion in your training and prep? Like, is it something to greet? Is it like a thing that happens? Because the one thing I'm getting at is like entrepreneurs thinking that exhaustion is not part of the process. Like, if they're getting exhausted, they're doing something wrong.
Yeah, it's I guess you're able to simulate what happens when you're exhausted. I think that's what practice is for. You get into that place where your oxygen isn't that the best, and then you train through it so that
Mm,
when it's game time, then you're not concerned about can I or can't I. It's just how
mm,
well can I execute. But I think there's also a time and place for it, right? And even from being an entrepreneur, you don't. It really is just about what tasks do you have, why are they important, and
mm.
getting that done. But from a rest
Yeah.
perspective, in track, you shouldn't push your body if you're not balanced at the time. If your
Mm,
body isn't balanced, if your body is balanced, then push and go beyond
yeah.
your limits because it's mental at that point. But if your body's not balanced and you push, you obviously you're going to hurt yourself. But there
Mm,
are moments, even in this journey, we're in our mid 30s. Unfortunately, there are times, well, for me at least, where I believe that there's so much that can be accomplished between maybe, I don't know, 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. that can set up the next
mm.
things for the day or for the week. That
That's
doesn't mean
you
that
know
I'm
that's
gonna,
that's my zone.
that doesn't mean that I'm gonna go 3 a.m. and then wake up at 5:30. It may
Yeah.
mean that the things that I need to get done up to 3 a.m. That means I can start at 10
Yeah. A
because
little
other
bit
people
later.
are doing their thing in order to get
Yeah.
balance. Or it really is that balance, man. You can't keep pushing and keep pushing. Next thing you know, you're taking 3 hours to complete a 45-minute task. That's the other part, knowing when to shut it down and where it's
Yeah.
counterproductive to
Yeah.
doing so.
And I was so I mean saying that to say that I think that entrepreneurs drastically underestimate that this is a routine regiment type practice. Like there are moments where you're kind of in the pattern of the thing. There's moments when you're celebrating. There's moments when you're in the big moment of the thing, and then you're back to training. And I don't really like sports analogies in business because they don't connect with everybody.
Mm,
But I think that health and wellness connects with everybody. Like the
hmm.
idea of what's required for you to be a fully functioning human is
Yeah.
most likely the core component to you being successful at anything you do, but
Hmm.
especially in entrepreneurship because of how difficult and hard it is.
Yeah. I
So
mean, wish we had Danielle on the line.
we got to
Well, I
bring
don't
Danielle
really.
next week.
We do. I don't really know if there's an answer. We got Thomas. What's good, my guy? Talking about grind.
Yeah.
Um, him building the lightest shooting machine in the world, mobile, like a duffel bag. I mean, everyone's consuming it now, but how many hours did he have to put in outside the gym, in the warehouse to build it? And how
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
unfortunate, sleepless nights did he have where he
Hmm.
believed and the team believed that this thing had to happen at this in this time. And hopefully, he's able to have moments of rest. Um, but it's hard. I mean, time goes by and, it's whether this is right or wrong, we don't have a conventional, work 30 years for
Yeah.
someone
No,
else
that's
and then hope
out
to
the
retire
window.
at, 65. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's not what we have chosen to manifest. And every day we wake up with our intention is to not only provide a ecosystem for entrepreneurs and early stage startups that truly care about them and their project and how to get to dollars a lot faster than traditional paths.
Yeah.
Um, we're working towards these wins and, to the point where we can define our own holidays and define our own vacations. And,
Yeah.
um, you know, so, I mean, what about you, man? When's the last time you took a vacation?
Yeah, that's I think I went to Mexico for a wedding. Um, and the pandemic does that to you, where it's like, well, it was the last year, the year before. So it was the year
Mm-hmm.
before last, 2019. But I think that I've gotten a better habit of taking breaks within my breaks. Like I've always been a person I could chill at home
Mm-hmm.
and, take time
Kind
to
of
myself.
rejuvenate.
I definitely come a long way. I'm a workaholic, man. Like I get addicted to just being behind that laptop and
Man,
cranking it
so much
out,
gets
doing what
done when
I'm
you
doing.
execute, man. So much gets done when you execute.
Yeah. But you need breaks
Exactly.
too, because like
Yeah.
I share athletic paths as well, kind of a regimented paths too. So, um, that's the thing that saves me. Like me having this inherent like wake up and this is what I need to do to get to where I'm going behavior is what has always saved me. Even when I
Hmm.
hadn't really developed my own maturity around, what it is I should be doing, where I should go. I remember it's as simple as like my mom telling me out of college, this idea of like getting a job is a job, like seeking
Hmm.
opportunity is an opportunity. So
Hmm.
you have to wake up every day as though you're working on that thing. Like you wake up and get it the same way you would if you were at the job. And so to me is, when you don't have something to do, you have to give yourself a regiment to follow
Right.
and it'll save you. It's like, everybody's hype on this uh Peloton movement, but
Hmm.
I'm analyzing the mentalities of the people who are like finding the most joy and output in that experience, and it's the people who kind of sacrifice themselves into the regimen. Like
Hmm.
they give
Hmm.
themselves into the thing that they're doing in a way that like the thing takes control at that point. Like you're
Yeah.
you're kind of like a vessel or vehicle of the process. You're no longer in control, and you're vulnerable, and you're okay with it, which is a
Right.
hard place to get to.
Yeah. Yeah. You said something, man. I mean, it's not irony, but when you can execute, you really can't move the needle. And that's something about you is every single day. It's not just, meetings on meetings. There's actual work getting accomplished, defined and accomplished. And over a period of 5 years for Devland, that's gotten us a long way.
Yeah,
The
man.
type of traction and companies and, good stories and rounds that people don't honestly believe once they see kind of the track record from putting in that work. And it was a lot, 98% sweat.
Yeah,
Um,
but you know what that's really all about, like not having the confidence in the beginning to
hmm.
do it. Like the confidence was the limitation for me. It's like how do I know that the process that I have instinctually that I trust for myself is going to get me to where I'm going? And the fact is, and the scary part is, you don't know.
Right.
You have no idea. But the process manifests outcomes no matter what. It may not be where you want it to go originally, but you're gonna end up
Yep.
somewhere, and the
Yep.
somewhere is gonna look a lot different than where you were.
And
But
it's
I
going to be
think people,
clarity.
oh, go ahead.
No, you're going to have clarity either
Yeah,
way.
that's really what it's about. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what it's about. It's like we don't have always clear thoughts or clear opportunities in our mind. We do have like an inkling of a thing, like an idea, but you know, you what's an idea? Idea is like, waking up in the morning and that first meal, like that breakfast meal on a Monday, not gonna hold you till Friday.
Hmm.
So, I think that really plays a big effect. But yo, so let's pivot into the question here. I think we talked a little bit about the context of kind of, entrepreneurship and its behaviors, confidence, and a lot of the other
Hmm.
things. But what does capital mean in the equation of what you're building? We see a lot of entrepreneurs and founders like jump to fundraising before they have anything to work on or
Yeah,
before
I
they're
did.
they're, they're even doing anything. And we learn, we definitely lived and learned from that. But
Hmm.
for context, like what are your thoughts now, reflecting and looking forward on, what capital's role is in the art of building not just businesses, but just the art of building anything.
Yeah, I thought the role of capital was more of an achievement. I probably raised about 2.5 mil, which 5 years ago for me was a lot, but now it's not because it's abundant. It's everywhere,
because you spend it and then it's not there no more.
and it is not there anymore. So, um, before it was an achievement. You think, I need to raise this capital. I need to raise this capital, and then you raise the capital, and you're looking for applause, and it's like, no, now we got to burn it. It's the only way to see if it's going to work and see if we thought would happen will happen. Um,
Mm,
so now when I hear what role does capital play, it's capital is a basic tool that
yeah,
is used to hopefully amplify something that you're doing that people are consuming. It is a
it's
tool.
part of it's part of a larger equation. It's not
It
the
is
equation.
it is not the equation. It it shouldn't be a celebration, like you won a third championship, with the Lakers because you raised the capital. I can't tell you how many times we have had an influx, a six figures influx into the account. Everybody gets on a Zoom, we celebrate, and then right before we get off the call, someone goes, "Hey, so before we get off the call, let's just throw this in the spreadsheet and see how this capital is going to be spent." 10 minutes in, everybody's move goes from up here to down here, and then they're looking at me or somebody else talking about, all right, who's going to go out to raise the next round before you even begin, because the capital it goes like that, and you
Yeah,
just went
man.
on a crest and a trough within 20 minutes. So it really is it's a tool. It's a tool, and it should be seen as a tool from the jump to keep
Yeah.
yourself in a very healthy place about why it is and how it is, and what it's for, and how can you stretch that, because I think part of capital the role that capital plays for any venture should be uh, giving you oxygen to
Mm,
truly move away from scarcity, from that type of mentality.
yeah.
It should give you yeah, I just keep using that word oxygen. It's going to give you that type of it should slow down your breathing a bit in order to see uh, how to best strategize, where you are and why
Hmm.
you are. And to be honest, you know, I don't think anybody should be oversubscribed in their first venture or second venture even. It sounds great to be oversubscribed, but all that money, you're gonna burn it. You're gonna burn it for reasons that you hadn't even planned to, but you can justify, because you can justify anything.
Yeah.
And you can justify it to your investors too, because they believe in you. Um,
Yeah.
but for us, I like the way we can allocate capital, and why. We try to keep it lean until it demands something else. Um, that may be frustrating for some founders. It was frustrating for me because everybody wants to get paid, even though you're not doing it for the pay now.
Yeah.
You know, it's a tool. Can you, before you even raise the capital, can as a personal founder, can you
Mm,
go through an exercise to lower your own monthly spending personally that you and your family agree to, or if it's just you agree to
yeah.
yourself,
Hmm.
um, because we're not doing it for you know capital now necessarily. We want to make sure that everyone around us that we're responsible for, lifestyle doesn't change significantly, and how can we keep this engine going as long as possible and as smart as possible.
Yeah.
um,
But
yeah, what about
you ultimately pose a risk of impacting the lifestyle of people around you because of the practice that you're engaging in.
hmm
Um, I think that's consistent with you take a new job that has travel time, or you has more hours, or does a thing, then you're sacrificing yourself, or you're you know lessening your availability and bandwidth on the other side of what you're doing. So whether it's capital or time or some other element of resource, that thing is transitioning back and forth in different ways. But you keyed in on one part that I love to talk about too, is how functioning as an entrepreneur and the finances of your business end up actually starting to look, trying to turn around and looks at your personal finances in terms of the synergy that those two things have together to make your business and what you're working on function well. And
Hmm.
I think people take for granted that too. Like you're saying, you oversubscribe, you raise all this money for your startup, but your personal finance picture is all jacked up. Like,
Yeah.
you could be not in the right, not in the best position to make your business successful because of your personal finance decision making or structure, or just lack of control in terms of having a system and position. Because at one point, like you say it now, we both know it, like Devland influences our home and our personal finance picture.
Yeah.
Like the work
100%.
that we do as entrepreneurs, as founders, has influenced like everything top to bottom.
Hmm.
And it's consuming. Uh, it's led to
Yeah.
some really hearty conversations with our partners.
100%. 100%. They still here. We all still together. You have had, I was thinking about this the other day, you have a very healthy relationship with capital.
Hmm.
You know, making money that's not something that you really think about because you've been doing it since you were 12 or 11, right? As opposed
Well,
to,
I mean,
and there's a
maybe
difference,
maybe even before that. I think
maybe even before that.
I was gonna say maybe before that. And shout out Frost Bank for the elementary age banking program that I started in. Like they gave us a
Mm,
little zip, like they made these mini bags, like what merchants take to the bank to deposit their
hmm.
cash drawers.
Yeah,
They made us these mini bags. They set up a mini bank in my elementary school and taught us about banking.
really.
And yeah, and I saved about $600 or $800 by the time I was in middle school, from second grade
Dude.
to middle school. And I think that's what it was, is like we need to be clear about the privilege of banking,
Hmm.
especially when we're thinking about like people who are banked, underbanked, or like unbanked, because that sets the stage for how people function around money and the usage of money as a resource. It's similar to like, and I'm gonna throw it back to you. Sorry, I kind of
No,
jumped
no,
in there on
please,
the
please,
frost
please.
thing,
They need to hear this. I
but
need to hear it.
look, it's kind of like a car. The assumption that people have about cars, that gas powered cars, is that as long as you keep putting gas in, the car will work. A car's maintenance regimen requires oil, batteries, tires, other fluids, electrical
Hmm.
systems. Like it's not just about the gas. And so when you think about an entrepreneur only focusing on the capital they're raising, it don't matter how much gas you put in that car. If the oil needs to be changed, the gas won't work right. If
Right.
if if the filters need to be changed, the gas won't work right. If the battery needs to be changed, the gas can't work anyway because then the car can't start. So there's all these elements of a larger picture that it gets really easy to focus on money because, in a way, in a selfish way of scarcity, we're thinking about that money going into our pockets. We're not
Hmm.
thinking about that capital giving life to a thing that potentially we won't have complete control and autonomy over. Like
Right.
the you say it now, Devland is an organism of itself. Like
Hmm.
it does things that you nor I control at this point.
Right. Right.
And I don't think people are comfortable enough building something that takes on a life of its own.
I mean, there's definitely a huge difference in someone being able to raise it and someone being able to make it. I think you and I have
Woo!
a really healthy
Say
balance.
reel it, man.
Yeah,
Say that again.
no, there's definitely a huge difference between somebody being able to raise money and somebody being able to make money, or an organization being able to raise money and an organization being able to make money.
Yes, say it.
And I don't think your healthy relationship with money on how to make it and how to kind of corporatize it. It's funny, we all start off as rebels and then everyone wants to achieve a Series A, but the whole journey from Series A and beyond is how to become corporate again, or how to like
Exactly.
corporatize your business in order for it to flourish and do all these things.
Yeah.
So,
And that's when the making money takes the largest priority.
yeah.
Because at that point, you said to your investors, you said to the whole environment that, we did this R&D thing, we were testing the market, and we got to this place where now we see revenue, and all the
Hmm.
investors in the market are looking at you like, show us the
Yeah.
money.
Books only. Yep. Beyond Series A, it's books only. So, yeah, it was very uncomfortable. I mean, man, everything you just mentioned, I would
Mm,
say, fortunately, over the last 5 years, I've made them all. I've made all of the mistakes. Because you've had this healthy relationship since before you were 9 years old, 8 years old.
yeah.
Um, you didn't have to make the same mistakes that I did, or learning. You didn't have the same learning curves as I did over the past 5 years. Which there were moments where it felt really uncomfortable for me,
Hmm.
for to kind of um, accept your leadership in how to steward finances.
Yeah.
Um, Very uncomfortable. Our superpower is your structure and I'm accelerate. And
Yeah.
I've accelerated multiple times and with no structure and crashed. Still alive, but crashed. So,
Yeah,
and I
you got it like thrown out the car. You get up like, hey, that's my car.
exactly, exactly trying to figure out how I did not end up like the car. So,
Oh
it's a
man.
lot. It's a lot, and it's rare that founders, anyone on a founding team,
Mm,
has that type of relationship with capital. And I'm grateful for
yeah.
the mistakes that I made. Definitely made them. Still paying for them. But
Yeah.
I
Oh yeah.
understand now that kind of that getting over my own threshold is that money is a tool. It's no longer like an accomplishment. It's not an
Hmm.
accomplishment. It's a tool.
Yeah. It's not.
Hmm.
Say
It's
that.
it's
It's not.
yeah, yeah. Raising capital is not an accomplishment. It's a
It's
tool. So.
it's like the first time I was so excited. I was making a six-figure salary, and
Hmm.
as a manager, it allowed me access to see what other people were making in the company. So I have transparency to pay.
Hmm.
And when I saw what everybody else was making, I was like, yo, this is some bullshit.
100%.
I'm over here celebrating this thing when I should have been focused on figuring out what I'm working for a company. How much does that company make a year? How many employees does it have? Do some basic math and dividing the revenue factor of the company versus how many labor bodies it employs to
Hmm.
understand the finances in that picture. Like that's the real image of how how much should I be making from this? Like what is my time and sacrifice worth? And most people don't even understand that piece. Like you'll work for a company, you'll kind of, especially when you're younger, you'll take a salary, you say, I'm gonna work my way up. You never stop or never know to even assess the total picture. Like, how much is
Hmm.
this company making a year?
No,
Let me
no, they're
ask,
not.
let,
That's the
let me
wrong
ask that
question.
question.
Right.
Well, yeah, typically people will
It's
say
the
that's the
right
wrong
question,
question.
but it's the wrong to
It's
some upper
it's
management.
it's the right question. Because
Exactly.
if you look at that picture, you can see how much padding is between your salary and how much money they have to pay you.
Yeah.
And that principal relationship, the economics of that picture are the difference, like you're describing, between celebrating raising capital as an early business and being able to generate the same amount of capital, if not more. And that starts really early. It's like you understanding the large equation of this business. The
Hmm.
revenue line has a relationship with the labor that it employs, the resources that it tows along, and people's kind of misconstruing of that relationship is what creates the biggest confusion. It's so much of confusion.
Yeah. I mean, back corporate isn't this way that much anymore, but 5, 10 years ago, you basically got paid based on the years of experience, not what you were actually doing and accomplishing, right?
Yeah.
So
It
that
almost
was
feels
really,
like they were pulling a magic number out, like this is your assigned number, and
oh, they
it
were.
was in this range of like they could pay you literally anything, but they're like
Hmm.
that number. And then you
Yep.
go, you talk to your buddy that works in a different city, and y'all do the exact same job, and they're making cost of living plus 20%. And you're like, wait, wait,
Cost of
wait,
living ain't
wait,
that
wait,
drastic. Yeah.
wait, wait, wait. Like, are you telling me that somebody doing the exact same thing I'm doing,
Hmm.
we're not
Comps.
even, yeah, we're not even like comps. We're not even matched up in a way that we should be. And it's the same thing with startup building or otherwise. Like you say, like I have to go out and raise 300K for my company. I don't know. I honestly do not know where founders get their capital raise figures from. Because when you talk to them about it, they're like, well, somebody said that that's just a good number to raise. Well,
Hmm.
did you look at what the growth of your business has potential to do in the next 12 months? And based on that, that's what you need to raise because you don't want to be left at month 3 because you're doing the right thing. Your business is growing the way it should be and you're out of money.
Yep. Exactly. Oh, a word. We just a project I'll talk about later. That obviously you're
Yeah.
aware of, Miles. We raised like 300K in 14 days. We're averaging like 15, 20K a day. And now it's a tool. That
Yeah,
was like, that wasn't crossing the finish line. That was just getting out the blocks.
for
Um,
sure.
and it's something that we needed. It's not like have an idea, go raise capital. But what do you think the role?
Mm, mm.
What role did capital play for Devland over the last 5 years?
It was a synergy between two things. From the get-go, from the beginning, um, from our original relationship with investors, and I love that you could loop Philip in a sec,
You know,
like investors on one side, and then me on the other side conducting operations that were generating revenue. And we had that relationship was present in Devlin as a company builder, as a company launcher from day zero. Like we knew how to uh, build revenue and buy revenue.
hmm
Those two things of like pistons pumping in the engine, they're working together, working at the same time. And it never allowed us to get stuck on the heartbreak of not having raised enough capital or not having moved the project or company forward enough. Because even if the project or company kind of hit a limbo point, we had other methods to offset that staggering. And I think that's the principal reason that I'm an advocate around startup studios, but furthermore around patient research type experiences that are akin to PhD, but in the private space, because of what it allows. It allows you to hit pause on stuff in ways that you cannot hit pause on otherwise. You cannot hit pause
no, you
on
can't
the growth of
justify
a
it.
business if that's the only thing
Yeah,
that you're doing.
right.
And so I think that was for us from the get go. You remember all those like random projects, like people used to come to us, can you build our app? And we would say no. Can we just help you go through your UX and figure
hmm
out what is the world you're trying to create, and can you be more articulate in describing what you're trying to
Before
build?
you go
Like
raise capital for it, yeah.
before before you go build anything or get an offshore developer and all the crazy things that people were
Even
doing.
even even before you get sad that you don't have capital, like before
Ex
your feelings get hurt,
before before your
before
feelings
that,
get hurt.
for yourself, how can we help make sure that you have something that you can, go get justify for the capital
Yeah,
for?
because
Um,
I'm having that battle this week. There's like two new entrepreneurs in our pipeline that people believe that our application process, you do an application, you have a perfect application, and then they get on the phone with us or they get on a call with us, and we have like real conversations, and they
hmm
get surprised. They're just like, "Wait, I mean, I thought y'all would do that." It's like, no, we're not, as a startup studio, we're not going to articulate the idea for you. We're
No, we
not
have over
going
70
to,
ideas
yeah,
articulated backlog, so that's not.
no, it's not going to happen like that. And we're not going to operationalize the market research that you need to have in order to present an opportunity to the market. Like
Not
there's a
sustainable.
there's a there's a key thing that I'm finding commonality in every single deal we look at, whether it's investment opportunity or a new entrepreneur in residence to come into the studio. There is a nuance in terms of their knowledge about the market that they're diving into. Like you cannot build a financial service product without understanding the financial market picture.
Say it one more
And
time.
you can't build a financial service product without understanding the financial market picture.
Mm.
And part of that is when you're having early conversations with people and everything that you say is like, I got this new app idea. It bars you, it blocks you from having tangible conversations with investors, with potential co-founders, with collaborators or experts that can tell you exactly what you need to know to push your thing forward. And it is far more proper to approach, and it's an affordance to your confidence, to your own personal belief in what you can do, to approach every conversation as a researcher, because the language is different. Like Devon, you're the best at this. Like going into a situation, talking about something that you have an idea about and that you're not an expert about yet, but having a conversation that allows you to exhibit your intellect and ability and
Curiosity and
curiosity and expose the other person's role in the equation. And people don't necessarily know that as an approach, but it's the most important one. It's like, hey, I'm thinking about developing some solutions for merchants and small businesses. And right now I'm analyzing that because of the pandemic. Some of the restaurants I know are having these symptoms and issues. Are you seeing that too? And having a dialogue that says, well, I think I can solve that if I'm able to do XYZ, right? And then you're explaining potentially your approach and process to exploring that. You're explaining your visibility and view of the market based on your understanding. You're posing questions based on what you don't know. And the person on the other side is like, wow, this person is a thinker. This person is a mover. Yeah. Your audio went out. I think
oh,
you're,
can you hear it?
yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, saying you're explorative. You're in that that explorative phase. It demonstrates like vulnerability, which
Hmm.
seems weak, but it's actually a strength in this case because it
It
means that
is
you're
the
open
biggest
to what
strength.
you don't know,
Yeah,
and you're willing to bring in solutions from places that you weren't familiar with, if they exist. So I guess it's communicating that I'm not here to build something from my own understanding.
correct. You're
Like
not.
I'm here to build from a community, a collective
Hmm.
understanding. That's
Yep.
why I'm going to build. Yeah, that's
Yep.
important.
It's crazy to say. Like people want to be able to walk out their house with the idea that they thought about last night in a dream, and hire somebody to build it and be successful. And I don't care what example you look at, there is not one example of business success, of community or social entrepreneur success, or anything that you can name. Like the biggest party
Mhm.
promoter in the world did not leave their house assuming that the thing that they came up with in their head the night before was going to manifest itself.
Right.
It's
Period.
not real. It's just
No.
not real.
So that's a great point. We can talk about manifesting because it's very important and kind of it's not as mystical as you would believe. But this idea for me, when I'm exploring something new, I will, it's my first thought when I wake up, and as soon as I step out, I'm completely open to seeing how the putting my thoughts into this specific topic will reveal new things to me from
Mm,
anyone and everyone. Could be from anywhere,
yeah,
period. To
yeah.
to gather data. Um, well, man, we have a special guest.
Hey,
Before we
hey.
wrap up, have a couple questions. Um, this is so. How long have I known you? 7, 8 years. 8 years. Almost
just short of a decade.
Short of a decade. I worked with his now wife They started dating. They got engaged. I had the blessings to officiate their wedding. Wife and I had a chance to kind of, meet with them before, just to share all of our, greatest and opposite moments of marriage, just to say you are not alone. After that, me, I'm always storytelling. So he kept asking, what are you working on? What are you working on? One day I got really tired of him saying it, or I was really tired. And I was like, man, you act like you want to invest. And he looked back and he's like, actually, I think I do. And I was like, wait, what? So led to the first investment, then, dinner that you and I celebrated with them for the first
Yeah.
investment, led to the second investment, led to this thing didn't happen in the time that we thought it would. His response was, hey, I believe in you. I believe in you all. Turns out you end up
Mm.
having gone to school with him, high school with him,
Yeah,
this
right.
entire time. And now, he's a seasoned, venture partner, seasoned co-founder. And
Hmm.
really, you cannot tell the Devland story without
Without.
mentioning
Yeah.
this human being and his family. So, da-na-na, da-na-na. This is Philip Burke, everybody. Give it up for Philip Burke.
Hey,
Buddy, how are
what's
y'all?
up, Phil?
What's going on?
What's happening?
Nah, man. You hearing all this stuff we're bubbling. How does it feel like for you to hear us explain what we understand now, 5 years later, in the way that we're able to? Like, how does that feel?
Man, after this long or seemingly long journey, um, man, I wish we had known a lot of this stuff in the beginning. Just hearing you talk about uh, founders, I think from my personal journey, I think there's really two types of founders that I've come across, and it's the founder that was born to be a founder. They may not have the tool
Mm,
set yet, but they aren't going to quit until
ever.
they capture that tool set. They're going to find a way to figure it out. All they care about is creating something of their own. And it may
Mm,
cost a little bit more up front while they work to acquire that education, but they're going to do it. Like if it takes them a decade or 2 decades, they're gonna continue to pursue, and nobody's
mm,
going to stop them. Nothing is going to deter them. And the
mm,
second kind of founder is the one I think that you were alluding to a little bit earlier is the founder that has an industry knowledge, has a better understanding of the problem, can better articulate that problem, and they have the ability to articulate it, make other people feel the
mm.
struggle around that problem through their ability to storytell, and then build a team around solving that problem, whether that's hiring a development team to build an app or going out and building a physical product or offering a service. Um, those people have a little bit of a head start on the born to be entrepreneurs, I think. But
Yeah.
man, it's been a blessing to work with both types, and I
Mm,
think being an entrepreneur is just it's an amazing journey.
yeah.
Um, and in its relation to capital, I,
Hmm.
I think the born to be entrepreneurs, sometimes it takes a little bit more capital. Sometimes
Hmm.
it takes a little bit more time. Sometimes it takes time to hone those skills to be able to tell the story and really find a problem to solve. You
Yeah.
just really want to find um, something that you can make a difference, an industry that you can make a difference in. And sometimes the other type of founder may be better equipped to handle things a little bit more quickly, but still
Hmm.
sometimes they require some additional skill sets. So
Yeah.
um, just excited about what y'all do
Yeah.
and laying out the high level of the story to help them understand, okay, you're going to need some additional resources, you're going to need some additional education if you really want to solve the problem that you're trying to solve. And here's
Yeah.
what we suggest. Here's a framework that can work to get you to that point where you'll be able to work towards solving that.
Yeah. I think it's so important looking at that picture of, you know, uh LP said to me, we were in conversations, we were in fundraising a little bit, and an LP said to me, they want to feel like they're not paying for your education.
Mm.
Like an experienced investor wants to feel like they're not paying for your university degree,
Your
rather.
exploration,
Yep.
yeah.
Like, and they mean that on like the precipice. Like they want to
Yep.
feel like you're in a place that you're already kind of mobilizing the things that you understand and getting out here and getting it. They don't want to feel like the capital they're deploying is mostly going into you maturing and figuring out who you are as a person. And
Yep.
I mean, that's risk behavior. And I think that people should be proper in their communication with capital partners or human capital partners, like whoever you're working with, to not make the assumption that that person wants to be there to tolerate the growth process that you have to go through. And I think that's part of what we all kind of unanimously are saying about entrepreneurs. Like the different personas we're describing are different types of assumptions. Like the individual who's born to be entrepreneur makes an assumption that, okay, if I don't get capital today, I'm going to go back into my workshop and I'm going to figure this thing out. And I'm going to be back at this table again, no matter what they say. The person who's coming out of industry, who has some bones and guts, can become a little bit reliant on what they know, but they know how to, once things start moving the way that they're supposed to, they can shortcut things and they
Mm-hmm.
can have a more proper conversation at the table in terms of like,
Yeah, the
I can tell
language.
you, yeah, I can tell you exactly what capital does in this picture. I can tell you exactly what the labor hours we're committing are going to churn into in terms of output. Um, and that's it's people don't want to tell, like it's like a bakery. The flour goes in, the salt goes in, the water, and all the ingredients that make the bread go into the picture. But being able to tell the story of how it becomes bread is what the entrepreneur is supposed to be able to do.
Yes.
Yep.
And when that's missing, it's kind of like, man, I could have went to Vegas for this.
I I think from our journey, we've seen, I guess, together had the opportunity to work with a lot of founders.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there is a metric or something to define that, but
Mm,
it's like you said, it's a risk aversion behavior not to want to invest in the
correct.
education of somebody. And that's a choice of certain institutional investors. I think where
Period.
we came into it was not this idea of let's invest in this idea that is going to take us to this next level,
Yeah.
but there's something about this individual or team
Hmm.
coming together, right? It's not necessarily tangible, and I think that's a different kind of investing. I mean,
I
that's
Right.
where
mean,
the investing
exactly. It's
comes.
by definition the purest form of an angel investor that can exist.
The
And
believer.
yeah, the believer. And
Yeah.
that's what you keep saying over and over again. It took a while for me to digest it. I don't know
Yeah.
about you, Miles, but it's like, hey, I'm not investing in the project because I can back and be like, we didn't fail, but it's not looking good. He'd be like, hey, man, what did you learn? I'm like, does that translate? And it does. And I think we all went on our journeys together as
Yeah.
initially as like the GP LP,
Yeah.
and for us as the startup studio model, this
Hmm.
ability to explore, build, and take the parts, and create a new stack. And
Yeah.
what do you think for initially your mindset? Well, what was your mindset around capital deployment 5 years ago to now?
Well, let me answer that by kind of going back to the startup studio idea. I think deploying capital for me was a trust building process. And so
Mm,
there were a lot of points in our personal relationship where trust had been built.
hmm.
Um, and so in a studio model, how do you develop an ecosystem where you can get to know somebody? You can go through
Mm,
scenarios where trust,
yeah.
opportunity to flourish, and character has the opportunity to come out. because I think if you can facilitate an ecosystem that allows some of those intangibles to come to the surface, you can start to understand who you might want to invest in, who you might want to go on a longer journey with.
Mm.
Investing in somebody is very much um, a significant relationship.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
for a lot of people, they have worked very hard to get that capital resource. And
Mm.
when you deploy that, you want to make sure it's with somebody that you trust. There is a lot of
Hmm.
understanding that there's a lot of other things that are out of the control of you and that
Yeah.
person.
Sure.
But if you can start to understand certain characteristics and quantify that for yourself as an investor, it makes a lot easier to go into partnership with somebody. And even through the failures or perceived failures, walking away understanding, man, we took a hit, but
Mm.
also we're walking away with significant understanding about how not to do something or
Right.
use that information for the future. And I think because you're investing in a person as opposed to something specific like an idea, it
Mm.
makes it easier to take those hits and then move into the future and
Hmm.
continue that relationship because you haven't invested in that thing, but you've invested in that person who is going to do multiple things into the future.
It's,
Man, look,
that
that
angel is like a startup angel. It's like a studio angel model, allocation model.
no,
Um,
listen, that I think, but that's the story we've always told about the studio is exactly what Philip hit on is observance, like,
mm,
and trust and relationships. Like, people have gone into situations with institutional investors expecting to pitch one or two times and get a check. There's no relationship, there's no trust, there's no observance. And it's if it's presented transactionally, it might function that way. Like, what happens when you go to the grocery store, they offer you something you don't want to buy, or you say yes or no, right? It's instantaneous. Um, but what Philip is really hinting at or pronouncing boldly is this idea that you can't really partner with anyone for any purpose without trust, a relationship, and observance, like the opportunity to see a person and their character in action and how they perform and what they do. And when they have a bad day, I'm sure, like, between me and Devon, there were days that we were on the phone with you, Philip, and it was like, hey, how are you functioning, understanding how this is going? Like, how
yeah,
are you going to start your next day? Or, like, how are you sourcing the motivation to continue on this path? Because I'm a believer in this situation. So I want to know how you're built. I want to know how you're capable, in terms of what you set out to do, whether or not this thing works or the next thing works. And it doesn't matter who you're talking about in that picture. I think the assumption for everybody to understand is the relationship and trust piece is not an overnight thing.
no, and I think if anyone watches the replay and they're a founder or hopeful founder, and part of their founder journey is they would like to raise capital, whether friends and family, whether private institution, whatever that may be. This is going to sound wild, but what I just realized maybe a week ago, man, is that I can't ever tell you that this thing that you've invested in is going to win. I can't promise you that. And I was like, well, what can I promise him? You know,
Mm,
as someone that I
mm,
deeply care about,
mm,
deeply cares about me. Like, the only thing I can promise you is that I won't give up. That's literally the only thing that I personally can guarantee. I cannot guarantee anything else. And I thought that wasn't good enough, or I struggled to articulate
mm.
what happens when you can't guarantee, and no one can guarantee anything. And why does that even justify or warrant or someone continuing to invest in you or keeping their investment in you and
Mm,
not,
mm.
I don't know, coming for you for other reasons. That
And it's literally the ability to not give up. And I think
Mm,
at the bare bones, stripped all the way down, I think that's one of the reasons why you continue to believe in us, is because you have seen in the middle of the battlefield that
mm,
we're just not going to give up. So
yeah.
And even beyond that, if we walked away from every investment that we've ever done, there is there's a bond that has been built of trust, specifically in this relationship, that we'll take that knowledge and we'll
Mm,
make this world a better place. There may not be any monetary benefit at that point. Not something that for me personally, because I am aligned with you as human beings,
yeah.
I can be confident even if I walk away and lose money.
Mm,
I can be confident that I know that y'all will go out into the world and do good things.
hmm.
Um, and
And
I
you're
think
part of that story. You're part of the doing good things story at that point.
yes, yes. And
Mm,
I think we have to look at when we talk about capital, what are different investors' motivating factors? There's some
mm,
investors that have almost zero tolerance for risk, and they want a for sure deal. They want to know, if I put in $1 million, what is my return on investment, and how can you guarantee that that's going to happen? And if you don't, I'm going to take everything you have until I get that. There are
mm.
people like that, or there are
Oh
institutions.
yeah. Oh, there are.
In the opposite end of the spectrum is something I think what we're working with is, man, there is no guarantee that we will be successful in anything that we pursue.
right.
But we're going to continue pursuing not just these ideas, not just these money making ventures, but we have this true intention to make the world a better place. Um, and I think you see the spectrum even within uh, VCs internally. I mean, some of them, the more risky opportunities, that's like their R&D department. They know they're
Yeah.
going to have to invest a little bit of money
Yeah.
if they want to
Burn.
be a part of it.
Yep.
But they're also a business, and
Hmm.
uh, they have stakeholders that
Yeah.
require to manage the money at a certain risk tolerance. And so I think as you go through this capital um, raising process, you have to consider who you're talking to, what is
Yeah.
their tolerance for risk. There's so many factors that need to be considered. And I guess from our journey, what one takeaway I found is, man, share your story with as many people as possible. First up,
Unlimited.
you refine you get better at telling your story every single time you tell it. And by the time you tell it 1,000 times, 2,000 times, man, you're really good at telling it, but you've also introduced this idea to so many more people, and you've gained so much more perspective around the
Mm,
thing that you're trying to solve. It may turn out that on the 100th time you decide, man, the problem that I'm solving is the wrong problem.
mm.
Let me adjust my thought process and
Ba, ba, ba,
let
ba.
me this new problem. And that may happen a couple times, but just
Yeah.
continue to tell the story to as many people that will listen. And if you can be persistent and consistent with that process, eventually you'll get where you want to go. It may
Yeah.
take a long time, which in this
Mm,
world of instant gratification is a really hard thing to swallow.
yeah.
But if you can do it and you can stay consistent with it, you'll succeed. And that's what entrepreneurship in my mind is. It's
Yeah.
doing hard things over and over and over again when
Yeah.
everybody else is like, this doesn't make any sense. Why do you continue to do that? And if you can
Yeah.
stay in the game long enough, if you can stay in the car, eventually something will happen.
Come on, man. I'm gonna get on live with
Come
this guy.
on.
Talk
Hey man, get
bars,
hand fill up the microphone.
bars. Hey, we need the transcript. He just described the whole entrepreneur residence program.
No,
Whole
it's exactly that.
founders kit.
But that was the thing that I couldn't do well when we got into this. Like I came out of corporate, I was a solid operator. To some degree, I was a dark labber. If we had a scope, I could go knock it out and come back and turn it around. The thing that Devon could do was in a symbiotic kind of uh, alternate mode to my capabilities, Devon could hit the streets and tell a story 1,000 times and then come back and say, hey, while I was telling that story, I realized that we're working on the wrong thing and we should actually be working on it this way. Or we've been saying it wrong and people don't connect with that part of the puzzle. And there's a larger opportunity downstream of what we're doing. But if you're at your house in the dark lab working on the thing and you're not communicating that, you never get access to the world of insights around you. You just don't. Like, and that was my reality. Devon would come back so excited and he'd come to me with like a new idea and I would say, hey, let's put some structure around that, or let's, can you explain some of the things that you understand about it? And to a large degree, sometimes he didn't understand it yet, but he came back to me with the motivation, like, I think there's something here, let's investigate. And I had to learn how to be a more balanced agent to that practice of
Translator as
finding,
well.
yeah, and translating the insights into, okay, what's the small thing we can do today or this week that can turn around some validation of that insight that you just gained. And getting better at that process, not only were we showing other entrepreneurs and giving other folks visibility on that process and helping them mold that into what they were doing, we were getting better at it. We were becoming the better folks in executing on that thing. And now it's like we're at the track, equal strides and moving at it in a good pace because we understand that functionally. And I think that's really what this conversation is about today, is like how to demystify all these random things that people want to believe this process is about, or just what building an opportunity is about. It's really not what you think. It's really about conversation. It's about vulnerability, about going and building trust and partnership and social equity with people, and letting it be that for a little while before you go to them and say, hey, like Devon never went to Philip and said, hey, day one, invest in my company. It was more so allowing time and space and patience for a observance to happen. And Philip being able to say, like, man, you've been telling this story for a while and it's starting to evolve a little bit. What are you going to do about that? And Devon being able to say exactly how it works. What's the journey that we're taking a person through as we're building this thing? Builds relationship, builds trust, builds the thought that, like, this person is not going to quit. Like, even if tomorrow they don't get the sales, or the next day they don't get the users on the app, like, how are they going to proceed forward from there? The confidence to know that that individual is not going to exit the freeway and not get back on. And, we really want to inspire people to get beyond their comforts and doubts. Just do it for one day. You don't have to do it for a lifetime. Just try it out for one day. Get out of your comfort zone. Go tell somebody about something you're inspired to work on and what you think that you want to go out in the world and solve, and ask questions that help you understand more about that thing. And then if you learn something that's crazy motivating, like Devon does constantly, write it down and document it and read it back to yourself and see if it hits the same way. And that's Devon language right there. Does it hit? Does it hit like it did when you felt it in that moment? And if it does, then day two, you know what to do. Day two is time to get after it. It's time to put, the muscle, the sweat, and the interest into the process, and devoting to at least seeing some kind of outcome.
Yeah, and it's okay to share your idea, but if you feel it's not okay to share your idea, just share a part of it. Nobody
Share a
knows.
part.
Nobody knows.
Disclosure is up to you.
Yeah, just share the part that you need from that person to get the information that you need to have the conversation that you need. You don't necessarily have to share everything. And no one knows what's going on in your mind unless you articulate it. So don't.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
have the conversations, because you're creating a service for humans, so have those conversations with as many humans as possible. And it really doesn't cost. It doesn't cost.
It doesn't cost any money to tell a story.
It just costs emotional energy. And if you want to
Exactly.
be an entrepreneur, you're going to have to get used to being vulnerable and being turned down.
All day.
Yeah.
You got to be emotionally tough.
So,
Man, Philip, thank you so much for joining
and
us. We definitely want to loop you into, yeah, man, this
This
was
was a
great.
pleasure. This was a
amazing.
pleasure.
I
So,
gotta I gotta run because I got an entrepreneur I'm supposed to be talking to right now.
oh shoot. All right,
You know,
man.
day in and
Thank
day out. But and everybody who's watching this, please connect with us. Visit devland.us, follow us, send us a DM. The same thing we're asking you to do, practice that with us.
Yep.
Hit us up, send us an email, and tell us about what you're working on. We want to hear about it and be ready to have a conversation.
Yep.
You know,
I mean, that's why I'm here. I'm here to view the launch of, this new co-founders
yeah,
application. You
yeah.
know,
There
I'm
you
here to see
go.
it. So always work. Do something every day
All right,
towards your
y'all.
goal.
Have a good
All right, man.
weekend. We'll talk
Appreciate
soon.
it. Yes,
All
Have a
sir.
good
right.
one.